Well, alright, the kitchen's really taking some shape now. Got the cabinetry installed, range hood, pendant light over the sink. It's going to look really nice. The dishwasher is just test fit in here while I was setting everything. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have a problem there down the road. It will come out, countertops will go on, flooring, and then it will be reinstalled. I went ahead and did all the electrical under here before we started setting cabinets and base cabinets. Prime reason is I didn't want to have to stand here and try to work back there. Just made it easier that way. I am going to go through the process that we used to install these cabinets up here, as well as how I did the base installation. Primarily because that is one bank of cabinets right there. Those are not three pieces. Believe it or not, my wife, as petite as she is, her and I alone got that monster up on the wall and secured it. I'm going to start there on the installation, and then I'll move down the line in chronological order. Alright, this may be long-winded, but I'm going to go ahead and go over how we managed to get this up there, just my wife and I. The answer were cleats. And I started this idea well back when we were refurbishing these cabinets. Now these aren't hidden cleats, so I just used temporary cleats. If you can see up in here, there was a 1x that was part of the original cabinet construction. I just simply added one below it, which is 1/2 of the cleat. And let's say it's got a 45-degree angle on it. Then everything was painted out to where it would look like it was kind of part of the cabinetry. This is the other half of the cleat, which were mounted to the wall. So I simply determined where I wanted the bottom of the cabinets to be, measured up, found the appropriate spot to mount the cleats, mounted one here, came across with a level line and mounted one here. Now, like I said, they're temporary and they have been removed, and the reason is there's gaps and there were 3 pieces of wood. It just really didn't look good. So after the cabinets were hung and secured to the wall, then the cleat was taken out, a little bit of spackle, and then we just need to touch that up with some wall color. Another thing that could be considered to use is like a ledger board down here. And I thought about that, but I didn't want to have to repair a wall that is really going to be visible and seen. Secondly, even if my wife and I were able to get it up on that ledger board, I'm not confident she could have held it while I secured it to the wall. So this is the way I went, was to go with the cleats, and it did work fine. Now I'll go over how we got this monster from the floor up there, especially with my wife being around 5'2". It took us a few stabs. The first one was to get the cabinet on the floor. The base cabinets were not here. I personally lifted one side of them up and she slid in a sawhorse, and then I lifted the other side and she slid in another sawhorse all the way back to the wall. Then we walked the cabinet back on the sawhorses to get it pretty close to the wall. Now it took us 3 tries to get this up there. The first one, she's not very tall, so she didn't have enough upper body strength to push it up high enough to get it over the cleat. So it had to come back down. Take 2 was her on a stool over here and me kind of down onto this end, and I didn't have enough to get it up over the cleat. Take 3 was the charm. Her plan was working out just fine. I just kind of had to get over here with a different grip in this area, and we magically got it up there and it hung on the wall. Then I came in and secured it to the wall, and like I said, removed the cleats. This corner cabinet right here was slid in after this one was installed, and it's small enough it didn't require anything other than holding it up there and screwing it in. We did use a cleat here to hang this one. No problem, her and I getting it onto that cleat. A little bit long, but some information on how you might be able to get something like this done with not a whole lot of people, just by kind of thinking it through and trying different things. Okay, well, I'm going to go over the base cabinet installation procedures, at least pertaining to this particular job. The end goal here is to make sure that all your cabinets are level, perfectly level in both directions, all directions, that you have one solid plane on the top surface of these cabinets, as well as the distance from the floor to here on this one matches perfectly to this one. So everything needs to end up in the same plane. In a perfect world with a level floor, you just simply set them and walk out. But in this case, this floor is not level, so you need to find the high point in the floor. Mine happens to be over here in this corner, but the way to find that high point is either use a laser or scribe a level line around the room. It doesn't matter how high it is, just get one on there, and then start measuring down from that point, let's say every 16 inches or so, and find the shortest measurement. That is going to be your reference point on where you start. Once you determine that, you need to measure your base cabinet. Let's say in this case it might be 34 inches. Measure from that point of the floor up for 34 inches, and there's your mark. Then shoot another level line all the way around the room, and that is where you're going to match all your cabinets up. So let's say, for example, I started over in this corner at my high spot, which is what I did. I didn't make a solid line, I just made dashes here and there. The first thing you do is get the back part of the cabinet on that line and secure it off. Shimming if your wall's a little wavy or whatnot, just secure that. Then you come in with a level here and here and start raising or lowering and setting this cabinet level. And once you get both sides right, the front should be dead on. And you do that with shims underneath, down here, you know, space them out a little ways apart. Start driving the shims in until you get it just right, and leave it alone and move on to the next one. So I started here, and then I went over into this direction, and I had my line still across there. Same deal. Set it to that line, a back, shim down it, and then move on again. Same deal here, same deal here. Now it may not show up here, but I'm in essence just about touching the floor on this front corner. And then when I shoot around the room, my gap is widening, 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 to over there I'm just shy of a ½ inch that needed to come up. But I am perfectly level across here, and like I said, that's the end goal. Now you might be able to scribe the bases or something along those lines and go through all that, but this is actually pretty fast and pretty easy. I did use composite shims and not wooden shims. This is going to have a lot of weight on there with the granite, and I didn't want the wood to compress, so these should not compress, and it should be held just fine for the long haul. Another added safety measure I did in here, since I'm going to have other people working in here, is where the shims are, to help secure them so they don't move, I just shot some caulk on each side of them just to help them, because like I said, there are going to be people in here working and I don't want to disturb my work. So that's in essence how you would go about something like this. Alright, I'm going to throw a little trick in here on how to use longer levels. This is a 6-foot level, for example. Let's say I'm working out here trying to shim this cabinet. Let's say it was this long, and I'm driving shims and moving things around. Well, the vial's way down there, so you're making tons of trips back and forth trying to look at it. Or maybe you're trying to scribe a line onto something out here. You can't see the vial, and if you don't have someone else and trust their eyes, you can't get the job completed. Well, here's the solution. Take your torpedo level and stick it on the top. Now you've got a vial right in front of you. You can do what you need and just move on. Enough said.